Max Verstappen's car failed him.
Unbelievable.
Failed him. He's going to be 15th on the grid in tomorrow's Grand Prix. That is mental.
Genuinely, I don't think anybody saw that coming. We've been raving about how unbelievable the Red Bull car is. Everyone's going, oh yeah, we're going to be a 1-2 for Red Bull again tomorrow. No problems, whatever. And the car gives up. I mean, they changed the gearbox in Max's car yesterday. They're going to have to change it again. They've now used half their allocation for the season. This is big for Red Bull. This is huge and could be, I mean, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but season defining, may I say it?
Well, we need to just calm down for a minute.
I'm excited.
I know you're excited as a Ferrari fan, but this we haven't even done the second race yet. And I know that he's come back from positions before, but I would never write Max off tomorrow. 15th on the grid. There is nothing to say that he could not finish pole, that he could not finish on the podium. He's definitely going to finish in the points. We know that, unless the car completely gives out.
Well, to be fair, there's a bit of nice duality. I think Fernando Alonso won in Singapore in 2008 from 15th. He's the only driver to ever have won from 15th before. Is Max going to do that tomorrow? He's won from 14th. We've seen him win from 14th before. It's only one more place. It's quite, in terms of like being, taking the Ferrari hat off for a second. In terms of in terms of the sport, we are set up for an unbelievable race tomorrow with two quick cars further back down the grid. The error with the Red Bull. Are we going to see more errors with the Red Bull car tomorrow? Maybe Checo's could go. Who knows? I think we're set up for an unbelievable race tomorrow. And
also, it's on such a tough track as well. Like proper street circuit, loads of track limits as well. And I don't know. I mean, if he did it, it would just be unbelievable. But anyway, it doesn't matter about Max because Checo starts on pole tomorrow. And it was a brilliant qualifying from him, wasn't it?
That's the thing about Red Bull is that, if it doesn't work out for Max, they'll probably be all right because they've got Checo knocking about, particularly on the sort of perfect circuit for him. Pole last year, pole this year. I mean, he did only come fourth last year. It didn't work out for him so much in the race, but we know that he loves the street circuit. He's in an unbelievably quick car. You can still expect Red Bull to have, minimum one, but I wouldn't write off them having two cars on the podium tomorrow, honestly.
No, I would definitely not write them off by any stretch. Do it at your own peril. We did see on this track, though, there's this little issue, isn't there, with the white line at turn 27. You are not allowed to put your left tyre on basically anywhere near. It's a pit lane entry. So if you do that, you essentially get your whole lap deleted. We saw it happen quite a lot, didn't we, in Q1 today?
Yeah, you got to feel sorry for Logan Sargent there, really, in the Williams. The guy was flying around the track, set a really quick time, would have taken him, you can imagine, into the second qualifying session, and he gets his time deleted. And particularly as a rookie, that could have been a really good opportunity for him to kick on. So I think he'll be quite upset. Oh, he'll be very upset by that. Fans of Williams will be upset by that. And this you're talking about how strict that rule is. I think the FIA are clamping down generally this year on some of those rules. We saw it 2 weeks ago in Bahrain with Ocon on the starting line. If your wheels are not set in the right place for the starting grid, you're going to get penalties. And we saw that with Ocon. We're seeing it here again. They're being very strict. If any of your left wheels touch that pit line, you're going to have your time deleted. So I think it seems to me they're really clamping down on the nitty-gritty stuff within the races. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that develops within the race tomorrow, if we're going to see penalties for that.
Absolutely. And also, we did notice there was a few issues with the curb today. So many people coming out over the curb, damaging to the bottom of the car, essentially. So you're going to have to be so careful to make sure that during the race tomorrow, that doesn't happen again.
And I think that's the other thing that's interesting between qualifying and race is that, for qualifying, they're going to do, throughout the whole session, if you get to Q3, maybe, 20 laps tops, right? But tomorrow they've got to go around that track 60 odd times, however many laps it is. I forget off the top of my head. They've got to protect that car. We saw George Russell on the radio saying that he went over that curb too much. Please check the floor. Have I damaged it? And it didn't look like there was anything too serious for them. But yeah, that's going to be. It's such a difficult, daunting track, which kind of brings us on maybe potentially a little bit to Piastri. So daunting, and he's done an unbelievable job.
is exactly where I was heading.
Love
that. A very mixed bag of a day, I guess, from McLaren again. I mean, I feel sorry for Lando. I mean, again, it's just not working in his favour at the minute. Early pit in Q1, thought they were going to be able to fix the issues with the car. They couldn't fix it. He starts, I think, 19th tomorrow on the grid. But as you mentioned, Piastri, the rookie, last week had a terrible weekend, was out, I think, 13 laps in. And this weekend, unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. Phenomenal for Piastri. He'll be buzzing with that.
Ninth tomorrow for a rookie.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely fantastic. What more could you want? Realistically, he's not going to start any higher up than that. Just getting into the third qualifying session is a great result for McLaren. The worry, of course, is though there's still something not right in that garage. And if your number one driver, and absolutely Lando Norris is the number one driver for that team, is struggling, is he going to start to get upset? Because we can pretty much say, unless something disastrous happens, Norris probably isn't going to score any points again tomorrow. Piastri obviously does have a chance to do it. There's just something not quite working there at McLaren.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that if this continues throughout the season, I have a feeling that Lando will be in a different car from next season.
Oh, clip that. I like that.
Clip that. I'm just saying, there's still lots of rumblings going on with Mercedes as well. And, I think Toto came out the other day and said, if they can't fix the car and make the car competitive, then he was basically saying that he doesn't think Lewis will be there. So there could be an opening. I think Lando is a great driver. I really do. And he needs to be getting more out of this car. But Piastri, as we just said, has got a good stat for you. He finished on pole and he won at the circuit in F2. So
yes. Well, that's maybe a bit of that experience. It's obviously a track that suits him, this kind of street circuit style. Fair play. He could do some absolute wonders tomorrow.
Yeah. Fernando Alonso, another brilliant afternoon in the Aston Martin, isn't it?
God, that Aston Martin just keeps outperforming itself. They've been saying for the last 2 weeks, hey, everyone, lower your expectations. We're not going to be that quick. Practice 1, 2, 3, they're flying, and then they're qualifying at the top. I mean, even Lance Stroll started in 6th tomorrow. I mean, again, they're set for an unbelievable season. And we know that, Max and Charles are going to be starting a little bit further back, and we expect them to fight their way through the pack. So we could see some unbelievable fighting between the likes of, Lance Stroll fighting it potentially with Max and Charles around that sort of 5th, 6th, 7th position. Could be really interesting tomorrow.
Double podium potentially for Aston.
I think that might be a step too far.
Alonso on the podium tomorrow.
I do think. I mean, he's got as good a chance as he really could have hoped to. Starting 3rd. So starting 2nd because Charles has been pushed back to this. So he's starting on the front row, which does make a huge difference. I think he'll play it coy. They'll go, we're just glad that we're up and fighting. But I think actually Aston would be disappointed if they don't have one car on the podium tomorrow night.
I think so, and that would be unbelievable, wouldn't it, for Alonso? I mean, his first two races in an Aston, and he'd get 2 podiums. I mean, it'd be
oh my God, can you imagine?
Yeah, well, we will see what is going to happen with Aston Martin tomorrow and Alonso. I'm a big fan of Alonso, so fingers crossed. I mean, it's weird for me because I love Red Bull, and obviously I'd always want Checo or Max to finish pole. Yeah. And then I do like Ferrari, and I have a soft spot, but I now have a soft spot for Alonso because I just think that the way he's making Aston Martin competitive, I love it.
Yeah,
I want this dogfight to the end.
I completely agree, and it's really interesting for the first time in such a long time having a brand new team up and about in the fight, and not even in the fight, winning the fight against the Ferrari Mercedes. It's unbelievable. Fair play.
Absolutely. As we mentioned earlier, we know that this is a street circuit. It's a tough track. It's a windy track as well. Lots of turns, tight turns as well. What can we expect to see tomorrow?
Red flag.
Lots of red flags.
I think we'll see a red flag tomorrow. I think somebody, whether it's in a fight or just struggling with the conditions or early on when the pack's all bunched up, I think we will see a red flag tomorrow. We never want to see anybody get injured in any sense, but we do know that a red flag or even just a safety car can absolutely mix things up. And I tell you who else will be desperate to see a safety car will be Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, so that pack bunches up and they can just fight their way through. I think we'll see so many overtakes. It could be one of the highest overtaking races we have seen in a while, with both of those incredibly quick cars starting back 15th and 12th. They're going to be against each other. They're going to be fighting their way through. And don't forget, down that line, we have some incredible drivers. We've got Esteban Ocon, Lewis Hamilton, Pierre Gasly. They're all 7th and lower. I mean, we've got some unbelievable racing to happen. I'm genuinely, Abby, this is the most excited I've been about a race in about 8 months. I cannot wait.
That is good, but we did have a big break in between that. But I'm still glad that you're excited.
Yeah, true. 4 months of it was off, but yeah, I just think from a fan of the sport point of view, I think tomorrow's race going to be wild.
Huge. It will be wild. Mercedes, they decided to keep their tyres for Q2. Hamilton finished in 8th, Russell in 4th. I don't really know what to say when it comes to Mercedes at the moment. For me, Russell, even last season, Russell is still performing better than Hamilton is. And then someone needs to acknowledge this other than myself.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And he outperformed him in every sector throughout quali. 4th is actually, I think it's a really good result for George Russell. He'll be really pleased with that. Lewis will not be happy sitting back at 8th. I think Mercedes feel a bit like they're in no man's land at the minute. They're not, they're above the midfield in terms of if we're taking Aston Martin out of the midfield. Generally, we think they're going to do better than the midfield, but they're not up there with Ferrari and Aston Martin and certainly not Red Bull. So it feels like they're in this weird, almost like transition phase, which I guess they are with the whole drama with the side pod thing. So I think it's just keep an eye on Mercedes, because it just, as you know, I guess a little bit similar to McLaren. There's something that's not quite right there that I don't think we all know yet.
Well, we're gonna end up seeing that B spec, aren't we?
100%.
Like, that is, it seems to be a no-brainer from a Mercedes point of view. This side pod is not working. You're flogging a dead horse, and you don't want to let the constructors get too far away from you before you can even get your foot in the door.
Yeah, and they'll be losing so much money. The more races that they don't win, and we know that there's tens of millions between different places on the grid in terms of prize money. I mean, obviously, Toto Wolff is not shy of a few pennies, but that prize money for the team in general can be so big. And if they're just consistently not getting up and about with the money, I think it could be detrimental for them long term.
Yeah, I agree. Haas, they both went out in Q2. Hulkenberg pushed out, but again, like a little bit competitive between himself and Magnussen. Like some pretty good drives. I think that they'd be happy with where they finished in qualifying.
Yeah,
it allows them to potentially creep into the points.
I agree. Better for Haas, I think. The worry thing for Haas is that we know that Max and Charles are going to get ahead of those Haas cars. So that's 2 places that you can basically kind of essentially take away from them. So they'll have a lot of work to do. If they can get 1 car to get a point, maybe 2 points tomorrow, that'd be a very, very good result on a very difficult track.
Yeah, and for a team like Haas, it's about picking up. They just want to be in the points at the end of the day, whether it's that 1 point. It's like with Williams last week. Yeah, they were so excited just to be in the points. And I think it's going to be competitive. I don't know. I can see it being not a given that Haas or Williams will be bottom of the pack this year. It's not anymore. Yeah, in my opinion.
Well, and a lot of people are talking about AlphaTauri finishing at the bottom of the pack. So again,
unimpressive today for me. Really unimpressive.
Yeah, really bad. I expected more from Tsunoda. I really thought he'd get through to at least Q2 and be pushing for Q1, because he had an okay result of Bahrain, finishing 11th. But that's not good enough. Really poor from AlphaTauri.
And also De Vries as well is just not. I know it's very early. It's very early. Yeah. As you would say, another type of Red Bull vehicle.
So 100%.
You'd expect it to be a little bit more competitive.
Definitely. And De Vries came with all this expectation because he went and scored points in the Williams last year. So everyone's going, oh my God, this guy's made for F1. He's going to be unbelievable. And the reality is that he's come into it in an AlphaTauri car and is not able, so far, look, maybe he might go and have a worldie tomorrow and get, finish 6th or something. I think it's unlikely. But so far, things aren't working out at AlphaTauri kind of across the board for them.
Yeah, I agree. Let's talk about Ferrari. Are you happy with today? I know obviously that Charles has that grid penalty. So despite him actually finishing 2nd today, he's going to be in 12th. Sainz coming in 5th. Did you expect more from Sainz? You feel that Sainz was going to potentially lose his seat at the end of the season, don't you?
Well, He's probably my favourite driver on the grid. I really like him. You know, the smooth operator thing. But so far this season has been unimpressive from Sainz. There's no other word to describe it. I don't think fifth is good enough. I think he's got to at least be the fourth quickest car every time. I'm more positive about Charles. Finishing in second there, obviously, you know, Max didn't complete the qualifying session, but finishing in second shows that he is capable of keeping the pace with those Red Bulls. So long term, that's more impressive. But I think Carlos basically really needs to sort it out, because he needs to have a really good race tomorrow and start being, rather than 5/10 off Charles, he needs to be within 1/10 of Charles.
Yeah, because I think he's definitely got the talent to do that. It's like you, he's one of my favourite drivers on the grid. And I think that we've seen him give a lot sometimes, and then, you know, pick up a podium or finish pole. So for me, there's something again that's not quite right. But I do feel that there is something quite not right within Ferrari in general. And then so that leads me on to my final question: is that we're seeing so many reliability issues, notably with the gearboxes at the moment. Obviously, we've seen Ferrari have that issue again today with Verstappen and Red Bull. What is causing all of these issues so early on in the season?
Yeah, I mean, if I could answer that, then I'd probably be employed at Red Bull or Ferrari pretty quickly. That's what they're going to have a late night tonight, Red Bull, trying to figure out what's going on there. But it's strange, isn't it? So early in the season, you think they have all this time off, all this testing time, then they run the cars. We've had a race, then they've had a 2-week break, which isn't enough to make drastic changes, but enough to make sure that there's nothing major going on. And we're seeing errors. So it's really it's genuinely fascinating for the sport. And I think the positive thing is that, again, talking as a fan of the sport rather than the fan of a particular team, is that it's gonna keep the pack mixing up if we're seeing errors. We can assume now Max, as I said, has used 2 of his gearboxes already in the season, into a 23 race season. So at some point he's going to take a penalty, right? That gearbox is not now going to last another 21 races. So at some point he's going to take a penalty. He's going to be dropped back, and we're going to see more of this, where top drivers in top cars are starting further down, and it gives the likes of, coming back today, to Oscar Piastri or Pierre Gasly or Esteban Ocon, who I think had a really good qualifying today, to get in up and about and finishing in that top 6 or even on the podium.
I think so. All right. Well, now that you've seen qualifying, tell me who is finishing in your top 3 tomorrow.
With my heart on my head.
Your honest truth. Go with your gut.
I think Perez has a score to settle, not winning from pole last year, so I think he'll go first. I think Fernando Alonso is going to go for a second. I really do.
Okay.
And I think Max will fight his way back and come third.
I think so as well. I would have matched the same as you. I'm tempted to put Max in second, but I don't know if that's too arrogant. So I'll go with Max in third.
But then, who knows? You know, I'm going to think with my heart.
Sainz could have a good race. Hamilton could have a good race. Russell could have a good race. Piastri could have a good race.
I think they're more ambitious. But maybe the Ferraris will pull a worldie. And Charles Leclerc, he's only 12. He's 3 places ahead of Max already, which is a good, you know, if Max gets held up a little bit, he can push his way through, you know, 10 laps in, could be up by 6th or something like that. And then he's up and about by the pole as well. So it genuinely, I can't overstate how excited I am about tomorrow. It's going to be genuinely a race to remember, 100%.
It is. It absolutely is. And we've got all the coverage coming tomorrow on Track GP. And it's going to be so exciting in Jeddah. What's going to happen? Whose gearbox is going to explode? Who's going to get the flag? Who's going to finish pole? I'm very excited as well. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you tomorrow.